So we actually have a confirmed timeline on our new map, Killer, and Victim. Gunn did an hour and a half long stream a couple of days ago, and they not only answered that question, but they talked about things they're going to be putting into the game. They gave timelines on some of these things. Other things they said they're absolutely not putting into the game. So that's what I'm going to cover today is I took the best parts out of this hour and a half long stream, and I'm going to tell you all these things that you need to know about it. And so if you're looking forward to new content, here's the video for you. If you like what I do here and you want to support me, consider subscribing. And of course, I'd love to hear your opinion afterwards. What do you think about all this stuff that's dropping? And yes, some of the stuff is coming this month. Let's go ahead and get into it. So one thing about Gunn in this live stream is they were very straight up and brutally honest. Like, yes, we're planning on doing this. So we may not have timelines for everything, but at least we know they're looking at it. But what they also said is some of the things they're not going to do, and they gave a reason for those as well, some of which I will cover. Now, the new map, Victim and Killer, will be released by the end of November. So maybe it'll fall on that 2-week timeline I had predicted on, around November 21st or so, which was my prediction in an update video I did a couple days ago. Either way, by the end of this month, we will finally be seeing Junkyard, Black Nancy, and Danny in action. This is great news. We have a single-player mode coming, and it's been in development now for some time. It's actually called Museum Mode, so it'll be similar to the virtual cabin in Friday the 13th. So I'm hoping in addition to that, it will also let us play through certain scenarios because they said they're working with the exact team that helped them with virtual cabin do the museum mode as well. And so again, I hope that it'll let us walk through scenarios with some of the victims and Leatherface and, some of those really cool ideas, which I would love to see. But either way, that museum mode is definitely coming. Now, they're going to be allowing people to rank up past 99 eventually. What they said, though, is they want to tie it in with not necessarily achievements, but they want to put a purpose in there, not just a number, not just, okay, well, now you can get up to 200. They want to have something attached to that. So some kind of reasoning, which sounds to me like unlockables or maybe, I don't know what they're going to do because they really didn't elaborate that much, but they said they want something attached to the levels. Maybe I'll have a better idea than I do what they actually mean by that. But either way, they do want to, get it past level 99. And they want to have, some kind of reasoning behind that. So I'll be interested to see how they approach the whole, level 99 and above type of content. They're also bringing in-game currency, which is awesome, man. This is something that we've been talking about on the channel for some time as well. So this will give us opportunities in the future. And I want to say they said, this is going to be a little while out, but it will give people the opportunity to earn in-game items. So if you don't have the money to buy certain things, then it'll give you something to grind for. And that's really important in any multiplayer experience. You got to have a reason to play the game. You have to have objectives. I mean, these can be really simple things, just simple outfits or whatever. But regardless, we're going to be getting some kind of in-game currency. So that way, you can actually earn things as you go along. And it's not just going to be all paid DLC. By the way, the updates they're looking at every 30 to 45 days. Now, this can include new maps, characters, but it could also be just simple patches as well. Now, what they said is we're past the hot fix stage of the game, and now we're into the wish list stage of the game, which sounds a lot cooler and better to me. But understandably, when they run these big patches, they wanted to make sure they had all of the smaller things ironed out and have the game in as good a state as possible before they do these big updates. New family cosmetics are coming to the game within 60 days. Environmental kills, similar to how Leatherface can take victims to the gallows, are something they're looking at as well. Now, they want to make sure that it makes sense for the character. So it won't be like Sissy's going to be able to carry Leland to the gallows. So I assume that, in maybe future maps or maybe in the maps we have now, they will, have certain things, think of Friday the 13th, that are in the map placed there. So if you have a victim and you're able to kill them next to this item, it'll give you the option to I don't know, throw them on a stake or, whatever, maybe a piece of the house or a car or however they work those certain executions out. But environmental kills are definitely something they're looking at adding into the game. They're also working on giving us the ability to have multiple executions. So again, Friday the 13th, where you have a certain button you hit whenever you execute a victim, and then you can, just do a number of them, whichever one you want to do. Obviously, they have to add more executions into the game to make this worth it, but still, that's something they're looking at doing. And they have more motion captured sessions coming up, which means executions are something that we should probably expect sooner rather than later. I don't know how long it takes for all of that. They actually said when they do motion capture, just the motion capture process is just a third of the entire process to get those new motion capture events into the game, or for each killer, or however they work that out. Here's another big one. Leatherface will not be mandatory in the game any longer. This is also coming at the end of this month. I made a video yesterday talking about over 250 changes that they're bringing to the game, and I brought the highlights, or at least what they showed. And so this is something that we asked for, and they said, hey, there's going to be growing pains with this, and it is going to change the game. It's going to change the flow of the game for sure, and I'm really interested to see that. But what they really want is to get people into matches quicker, because this is a problem, especially for victims. And so they're going to give it a shot. It's kind of like a trial and error. And so they kind of talked about how they're interested to see if the dynamic between, the killers is going to change and how that affects the gameplay. And you may notice whenever we, have matches without Leatherface that, man, he brought a lot more to the table than what we realized. Now, when I first brought this subject up, and I still stand behind it, I still think Leatherface should not be required to start, but that was before I played a lot of Leatherface too. I'm telling you, man, if you take some time and you learn Leatherface, he is one of the most satisfying characters. I don't like playing any other killer but Leatherface now, honestly. But he is absolutely a fantastic character. So I think it's going to change the game. And I think when people, finally, you don't have to actually have him in the match. If it's speeding things up, that's great. That's all that really matters. But I think when people realize he's not in the game, they're going to miss him for sure. And he's just one of those special characters that I think you have to have in the game. But again, I think it's a good move for them to make him not a requirement, so that way we can speed these lobbies up and get them going quicker. There's a shirtless Johnny coming. I don't know why people are asking for this, but there you go. Chop Top and additional licenses were definitely brought up. And this is something that said they're looking at doing, but this is going to be down the road. I mean, basically their content roadmap is like 6 to 9 months out. And so I imagine this would be a while. I mean, licensing and stuff is real. I can only imagine it's really, getting multiple people, or at least what they say, getting multiple people involved to say yes. Everybody has their hand out. I want to get paid. I want to get paid. So they got to obviously make sure that it's worth it, which I think this game needs to have additional licenses for long-term success. But again, they do have access to Kim Heinkel, and they have the ability to come up with locations that fit into the lore. Now, something I appreciate that they said, because they got a question about diversity. Well, this game is pretty well diverse, but they said they're not going to throw characters in there just to have representation to check off a box. They're going to have characters in there that fit into the lore and into the story. So I really appreciated to hear that, because that is, at a sense, the game is as diverse as you can get. And with all of Anna's friends and Maria Flores and all this kind of stuff, this is her group of friends. And anytime they bring in new characters, they have to make sense inside this world. So I thought that was a perfect answer. And they said exactly that. When they bring in new characters, when they bring in new victims, they're not doing it just to check off a box, but they're doing it because it fits inside the game. And fortunately, with access to Kim Heinkel and the fact that they can just kind of come up with stuff that would fit in this world, they can do that. Now, let's say the 2003 Leatherface with Jessica Biel, they get that license. Would they take it to the 70s timeline or keep it in that timeline? They answered this as well. They will keep it true to the timeline it's in. So obviously you would have to have maps, I would imagine, and other things. All the characters would kind of have to revolve around that specific IP. But it is something they want to add into the game. Chop Top has been brought up a bunch, and rightfully so. I think he'd be an awesome character to add, and it's something they're looking at doing eventually. Another thing they mentioned is they're not going to have a public roadmap because they don't want to fall short on that goal and then disappoint people. They have an internal roadmap. They're going to keep to that. I'd like the transparency, but again, I feel like they do a pretty good job anyways at responding and, trying to give people what they want. So I'm okay with that. And especially knowing that they're out of the hotfix stage of the game, I'm really excited to hear that as well. One other thing that was brought up that I thought was interesting is weather effects. And I didn't really think about this because I brought this up and y'all have brought this up before. But when they introduce weather, or if they were to introduce weather, and they're not doing that, by the way, they would have to account for footprints. Are the footprints already predetermined? Or can each character make footprints? Well, if that happens, then, can they track in the house? If they make their own footprints. When their clothes get wet, obviously, how long does it take for them to dry when they come inside? Or do they dry when they come inside? How does blood react with the water whenever it's raining outside or thunderstorms or anything else? So again, they don't want to do that just because it's visually appealing, which I agree with. I'd love to see some kind of weather effects in the game, but they think about the entirety of adding weather, not only just the aspect of having rain or thunderstorms, but how does that affect everybody else in the game? And while I think it would be an awesome addition, they're also balancing cost, risk, reward type of thing. Would it, make so many people happy enough to, still buy the game or, buy additional content just because there's weather? At this point, they don't make it seem like this is something they're going to pursue at all. So some additional things is new maps will have exits that are different than what we see now. So that's pretty cool. That will bring some different strategies to the game. So as opposed to just getting a new map, valve, fuse, battery, generator, maybe they'll have completely new ones for each additional map. I don't know. That's something we'll find out here very soon. A couple of quick things too. Prox chat will never come to the game. They like the idea of being able to talk to your team and your team only. And then emotes will come to the game kind of, not in the way that Friday the 13th was. They brought up, funny examples of things that happened in Friday the 13th, where you could emote over Jason if you knocked him down or whatever. They won't bring that stuff, but they are looking at bringing, let's say somebody doesn't have a microphone and they need a health, or, I have the valve, or maybe emotes like that can help people without microphones communicate to the team, but nothing crazy like Friday the 13th, which makes sense because it really doesn't fit into Texas Chainsaw. This is definitely a more serious game. And that matches with the overall tone of even the movies. Texas Chainsaw has never been that goofy kind of horror comedy. And I say goofy with all due respect because you guys know I love Friday the 13th. I love the game and I love the movie series. But Friday is willing to kind of push the boundary a little bit more, I think, in terms of kind of goofy horror to an extent, especially once you get outside of the first three movies. It becomes a little sillier at times, but Texas Chainsaw is really not that. I mean, it's always serious, so they're definitely not going to do anything to bring the tone of the game in a different direction than what it's intended. And that's it, man. There is a lot of information here. I tried to get the best parts out of it, and like I said, I really appreciate the fact that they took the time to answer all of these questions. I'd love to hear your opinion, man. What do you think about their approach now that we know we're getting new content? We know when it's coming. I know that's really important to a lot of people. So leave those things down below. Big thanks to you guys for watching. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.